This tool is called manifold gauge or service gauge. It's mostly used in air conditioning and refrigeration. When do we need this? When we service a system, when we add a refrigerant to system, when you remove a refrigerant from a system or a cylinder, when you vacuum a system, you need this service or manifold gauge. This whole thing is called manifold gauge. This is the high side valve and this is the low side valve. Most of the time it's in red color and in blue color. When you connect your hoses, these parts are called hoses, red, blue. So red is connected to your high side. In here you can read the pressure on your system. So the outside you see is it shows the pressure, it's in psi, and the same thing on the low side you have a psi, and also in the low side you can see in below zero you have a vacuum gauge or a vacuum. Then it shows the negative pressure, so it shows the vacuum gauge. So if you see, it's measuring inch of mercury. So when you put it in negative pressure, when you vacuum the system, so this needle will come down. When you connect it to your system which has a pressure, so the needle will go up. At the same time you can read these refrigerants names. You see R22, 410A, 404A. So this gauge is designed for that three particular refrigerant. So in here you see R22 is green, so this green shows the saturation temperature of that refrigerant. At the same time you can see the orange is for 410A, 404A. So these temperatures are the saturation temperature of that particular refrigerant. And also from those needles, sometimes you can calibrate your gauges. You need a screwdriver, small screwdriver. You can put from that, you can remove this part and then you put in and you can adjust it. You can look at here. Once you put your screwdriver, you can turn it clockwise and counterclockwise. You can watch it there. You can calibrate it from here. This part is called a high side valve, and this is called low side valve. So when you turn it clockwise, you can close the valve, and when you turn it counterclockwise, you can open the valve. When you close the valve, still the gauge can read the pressure in the red hose. If you look at this picture, when you close, this is the diagram inside the valve, how it looks, when you close this valve, okay, when you close this valve, when you turn it clockwise, they will block this valve from here. They don't allow refrigerant flow from high side to this yellow hose, or same from back. But still the gauge can read the pressure from the high side. Same thing here, you see now valve is closed, but low side can read the pressure from the gauge. Low side gauge can read the pressure from the low side hose. If you open both of them, then the refrigerant can flow to both sides. So when you need to only check the refrigerant pressure, so make sure close both valves. And this part is called manifold gauge body. This two side is the valve, and in the front side is connected with the hoses. If you open it, you can see a hole. You can see the hole. That hole straightly goes to the gauge, and you can read your pressure. At the back side, if you turn it back, these parts are called port holder. Port holder is used to protect your hoses. So when you don't need your hoses, so you can put it here. It's a parking spot for the hoses, but when you check, there is in the hole, there's not a hole there. It's just the purpose is to park your hoses when not needed in the system. If you check Name of the parts. Whole thing is called the refrigerant gauge. Hawk, high side gauge. So this is called Hawk, and this part is called the high side gauge. Refrigerant pressure gauge. So this, if you check inside the gauge, you see the outside is the pressure range gauge, and inside is the temperature range gauge. This part in Fahrenheit or centigrade. High side valve. This part is called high side valve. Red hose, yellow hose, and blue hose is these ones. Blue hose, yellow hose, and red hose. Port holder is in the back. If you see in the back, this is called port holder. Number 10 is a low side gauge. This is called low side gauge. Start scale. So you see start scale is at 0. Start scale. Manifold gauge body. This part is called manifold gauge body. And calibration screw. If you see there's a screw inside each gauges, so you can calibrate it with the screw. These are the names, and if you look at this picture, each part is named here. Right now I connect the gauges to the system. So first, how I know which one is high side, which one is my low side? The first thing I figure out is my low side is smaller pipe in diameter, and my low side is bigger. Also, if you see the second thing, I see the insulation on the low side. So always my suction line have insulation, so I understand this is my low side. Also, you can find out when you run the system, the pipe with hot, which is higher temperature, is the high side. The pipe with lower temperature is my low side. Also, and the last way to find out is if you follow these two pipes, one is straightly connected to my condenser. So after compressor, it's condenser, and it's come out of there. You follow it, it comes out here. That's my high side. My high side straight goes to my condenser. So that's how I find my high side. I connect both hoses, and I can read it here. Low side and high side. Look, when you tight this, always make sure hand tight. Don't use any tools to tight, because over tight can damage the gasket. You see the black rubber thing? That's the gasket. And if you over tight it or tight with the tools, it will break or damage the gasket. And if you broke it, then you have to replace it. You open that needle and put another gasket. So when you tight it, you hold it like this and put it on the valve, and that needle put pressure on that shutter valve, and then the refrigerant will come out, and then the gauge will read it. So I'm connecting it now. So always make sure you have to when you tighten your valve, the thread is very important. So, okay, now it's tight. And then I can read it here. Make sure this two valves is open and this two valves is closed. And you can read the pressure. Still is not properly tight. You see, I can see it's 0 because it's not tight properly. So now I'm tightening it all the way. Now you see I can read the pressure.